Hello and welcome to my channel. Spartan here, and in this episode we will fight the Battle of Cannae. The Battle of Cannae was a key engagement of the Second Punic War between the Roman Republic and Carthage, fought on August 2, 216 BC near the ancient village of Cannae in Apulia, southeast Italy. The Carthaginians and their allies, led by Hannibal, surrounded and practically annihilated a larger Roman and Italian army under the consuls Lucius, Aemilius, Paullus&Gaius, Terentius, Varro. It is regarded as one of the greatest tactical feats in military history and one of the worst defeats in Roman history, and it cemented Hannibal's reputation as one of antiquity's greatest tacticians.
It is 216 BC, in the midst of the Second Punic War. After several major victories against Rome, Hannibal continues his campaign around Italy. The Roman people, keen to see a swift end to the war, elect Varro and Paullus as consuls. The Senate gives them command of an army larger than any the Republic has fielded before, specifically to deal with the Carthaginian threat. This new Roman army marches onto the Apulian plain, determined to halt Hannibal's advance through Italy.
Okay, we will briefly analyze the actual historical battle for those who want to learn some interesting details. I have done my research and I could literally talk for hours about Hannibal's expedition and the previous battles, but the video is already long enough. I will be brief. If you want to skip the details, no problem, then go to 9:37 of the video. Shortly after the start of the Second Punic War, Hannibal crossed into Italy by traversing the Pyrenees and the Alps during the summer and early autumn of 218 BC. He led his Carthaginian army over the Alps and into Italy to take the war directly to the Roman Republic, bypassing Roman and allied land garrisons and Roman naval dominance. After the First Punic War, Rome had imposed terms that were designed to strip Carthage of its fleet. This Hannibal's bold move was one of the major events of the Second Punic War and one of the most celebrated achievements of any military force in ancient warfare. He quickly won major victories over the Romans at Trebia and at Lake Trasimene. After these losses, the Romans appointed Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus as dictator to deal with the threat. Fabius used attrition warfare against Hannibal, cutting off his supply lines and avoiding pitched battles. These tactics proved unpopular with the Romans who, as they recovered from the shock of Hannibal's victories, began to question the wisdom of the Fabian strategy, which had given the Carthaginian army a chance to regroup. The majority of Romans were eager to see a quick conclusion to the war. It was feared that, if Hannibal continued plundering Italy unopposed, Rome's allies might defect to the Carthaginian side for self-preservation. Therefore, when Fabius came to the end of his term, the Senate did not renew his dictatorial powers, and Gaius Terentius Varro and Lucius Aemilius Paullus were elected as consuls, placed in command of a newly raised army of unprecedented size and directed to engage Hannibal. Most of their wars are decided by one consul and two legions, with their quota of allies, and they rarely employ all four at one time and on one service. But on this occasion, so great was the alarm and terror of what would happen, that they resolved to bring not only 4 but 8 legions into the field, which had never been done at Rome before. Until that time, Rome typically employed 4 legions each year, each consisting of 4,000 foot soldiers and 200 cavalry. For the first time ever, the Senate introduced 8 legions, each consisting of 5,000 foot soldiers and 300 cavalry. In the spring of 216 BC, Hannibal took the initiative and seized the large supply depot at Cannae in the Apulian plain, placing himself between the Romans and their crucial source of supply. The consuls, resolving to confront Hannibal, marched southward in search of him. After 2 days' march, they found him near the river Aufidus. The Roman army was composed of approximately 86,400 Roman and allied socii troops, 15,000 light infantry, 55,000 infantry, 6,400 cavalry, and 10,000 allies who were left to garrison the Roman camps. The Carthaginian army was a combination of warriors from numerous regions of around 50,450 men. Hannibal had an auxiliary skirmisher contingent consisting of 2,000 Balearic slingers and 6,000 mixed nationality javelin men, possibly including Lusitanians among them. His infantry was estimated around 32,000, comprised of 8,000 Libyans, 21,000 Gauls, mainly Boii and Insubres, 8,000 were left at camp the day of battle, and 3,000 of several tribes of Hispania, including Iberians, Celtiberians, and Lusitanians. Hannibal's cavalry also came from diverse backgrounds. He commanded 4,000 Numidian, 2,000 Iberian Peninsular, 4,000 Gallic and 450 Libyan Phoenician cavalry, a total of 10,450. The uniting factor for the Carthaginian army was the personal tie each group had with Hannibal. As the Romans approached Cannae, some of Hannibal's light infantry and cavalry ambushed them. Varro repelled the attack and continued slowly on his way to Cannae. This victory, though essentially a mere skirmish with no lasting strategic value, greatly bolstered the confidence of the Roman army, perhaps leading to overconfidence on Varro's part. The two armies stayed in their respective locations for 2 days. Hannibal, recognizing the importance of water from the Aufidus to the Roman troops, sent his cavalry to harass water-bearing soldiers that were found outside the camp fortifications, causing havoc and thoroughly disrupting the supply of water to the Roman camp. These previous events might have played their part in the coming battle. The conventional deployment for armies of the time was placement of infantry in the center, with the cavalry in 2 flanking wings. The Romans followed this convention fairly closely, but chose extra depth rather than breadth for the infantry in hopes of breaking quickly through the center of Hannibal's line. The typical style of Roman warfare was to continuously push with the infantry in the center and attempt to overpower the enemy line. Hannibal understood that the Romans fought their battles like this, and he took his outnumbered army and strategically placed them around the enemy to win a tactical victory. He had deployed his forces based on the particular fighting qualities of each unit, taking into consideration both their strengths and weaknesses. This aspect of Hannibal's leadership was highlighted in the use of a Spanish unit, the Balearic Slingers, whom he placed behind the infantry to hurl their ranged missiles into the masses of Roman troops. As the Roman heavy infantry attacked, Hannibal stood with his men in the weak center and held them together in a controlled retreat. Knowing the superiority of the Roman infantry, Hannibal had instructed his infantry to withdraw deliberately, creating an even tighter envelopment around the attacking Roman forces. By doing so, he had turned the strength of the Roman infantry into a weakness. While the front ranks were gradually advancing, the bulk of the Roman troops began to lose their cohesion as troops from the reserve lines advanced into the growing gaps. Soon they were compacted together so closely that they had little space to wield their weapons. In pressing so far forward in their desire to destroy the retreating and seemingly collapsing line of Hispanic and Gallic troops, the Romans had ignored, possibly due to the dust, the African troops that stood uncommitted on the projecting ends of this now reversed crescent. This also gave the Carthaginian cavalry time to drive the Roman cavalry off on both flanks and attack the Roman center in the rear. At this decisive point, Hannibal ordered his African infantry to turn inwards and advance against the Roman flanks, creating an encirclement in one of the earliest known examples of a pincer movement. The Romans were henceforth enclosed in a pocket with no means of escape. The Carthaginians created a wall and began to systematically massacre them. A quick look at our units. They have 7 units of hostati and 7 principes. These have extra projectiles to throw, the so-called pylons. 6 triarii who are equipped with spears and can cause problems at our cavalry. They also have 3 equites and 2 socii equites extraordinarii. We have a variety of mercenaries, 2 Iberian and 2 Gallic infantry units, 3 Libyan infantry. All the above can shoot some projectiles too. 2 weak Libyan hoplites, but 3 powerful Carthaginian hoplites. Our missile units are deadly, 3 Balearic slingers and 1 unit of Cretan archers. We have skirmish Numidian cavalry that can harass them, 2 Iberian cavalry which have frenzy charge and 2 noble cavalry, Gallic and Carthaginian. All these are superior to the Romans, and we will exploit their powerful charge on the infantry's rear and flanks. One last plus of our overall army is that we have experience points, especially on our infantry. The Roman units, on the contrary, are totally green.
Subscribe to my channel, bro. Thank you.
Let's go!
After 2 days of skirmishing, Roman and Carthaginian forces finally meet on the banks of the Aufidus River. Rome has brought what it hopes will be overwhelming force to the field. Although inferior in number, Hannibal's army is highly maneuverable, with superior cavalry. The Roman army is relying on brute strength to smash through the Carthaginians. Hannibal could use this relentless push against them. If Hannibal's line can hold, and his cavalry can dominate the flanks, then he can control the legion's advance. The Roman numbers will mean nothing.
The Romans advance, all pomp and spectacle. Let us show them how a real army fights. Smash them into the river.
Okay, first move. Withdraw everyone. Their cavalry units charge. I don't want to waste any horse or projectile on them. My spear units can counter them. They will be the most useful here rather than later because on man-to-man fight against Roman swords units, they are losing the fight every single time. I will have my Numidian skirmishers on standby to finish them off. I know I don't have them in phalanx, but that's because while being in that formation, they become too slow and I want them to chase better and catch those horses before they regroup far away and come again charging. I have less defense like that, but I am trying to absorb less charge and keep them busy away from the rest of my army. These escaped from the hoplites and are coming here. I don't want them to kill my precious missile units. Well, maybe a single wave of shots is needed here. Okay, gone. I could send the Galatian nobles' cavalry, which is very good at melee fight, but I want to preserve all of them for the next stages. The light Libyan spears are trashy. They cannot do the job without help.
Missile cavalry at your command. Advance at speed. Archers.
One to go. Battle of Cannae is probably the most rigged battle of the historical battles. As you see, they stick to the script, which is Step 1. They send all of their cavalry to death, and their infantry, like a giant mass of steel, is walking slowly towards you. If you don't go too close to trigger them, they won't engage you or chase you. They come up to our initial position and then they stop. This gives us the opportunity to exploit this script and station all of our missile units on their right flank to deal the maximum possible damage as they are walking by. Their horses are finally exterminated. It's unfortunate that we don't have war elephant units. Hannibal started his famous campaign to cross the Alps with around 37 war elephants, but some of them, maybe 6, died on the mountains, and almost all of the remaining 31 died in the next Battle of Trebia, either by enemies or by exhaustion. We can handle dealing with them altogether face to face, but if we do, we will escape with only some dozens of remaining troops. It will be massacre for us too. At legendary mode, they are simply unwilling to break. Especially in that battle at Zama and Carthage's siege too. That's why these battles have the longest duration. We need to stay patient and exterminate them methodically, piece by piece. We are aiming from back and right side to deal the max damage. They are holding their shield with left hand and their right side is more unprotected. In this right wing, they have mostly the Triarii troops. From the one hand, it's good to kill these guys because they can cause heavy casualties to our cavalry later, but on the other hand, I would prefer killing some more Principes because they have pylons to throw at us, so we can prevent more of the damage our infantry will sustain. Well, the other good thing from here is that if their Triarii are triggered to chase us, they cannot reach us. The Principes would throw their pylons and punish our soft missile units. Do you see how unreal it is? There's only one soldier and he refuses to break. I spread the front line as long as it can be for more straight shots and maximum damage. At least AI is a little bit clever. They got into loose formation for less damage.
Ready for orders. And the double. Archers! Quick march! Slingers!
Nice! They fired all of their ammo. They are not useful anymore because if I throw them at the enemy, they will be cut down like butter. Their only use from now on will be at the back of my army protected, just in case there is a hole to be filled. Now what do we do at this bunch of Roman steel? We will send the Numidians to kill the Roman general. This will split them and some units may chase us. The others will remain spilt but immobile and we will take them one by one.
What are your orders? Missile cavalry at your command!
Okay, these are not moving. We have only one unit following us. They are too freaking slow. I would love it if we could play the previous Battle of Lake Trasimene, which is considered by some historians as the greatest ambush in history because it is maybe the only instance in history of lying in ambush not only to a part of an army but with the whole of a large army which was effectively swallowed and destroyed. Many of the Carthaginian infantry, especially the Libyans, like these units, equipped themselves with captured Roman armor. I guess they don't want to come.
Ready!
Our aim is to form a wall of our spears to absorb their charge and pylons. They have good defense, and that is the only good job they can do. And while the enemies are busy with our spears, we will surround them with our projectile-throwing infantry and exploit every single projectile of them.
Libyan infantry! Libyan infantry! Ready for battle! Cavalry! For the people of Carthage and of Carthage!
I reorganize them immediately so they can stop shooting at the broken troops.
We are at your command! For Carthage!
In the actual fight, the Carthaginian forces had maneuvered so that the Romans would face east. Not only would the morning sun shine low into the Romans' eyes, but the southeasterly winds would blow sand and dust into their faces as they were marching. The dust was not the only psychological factor involved in battle. Because of the somewhat distant battle location, both sides were forced to fight on little sleep. Another Roman disadvantage was thirst caused by Hannibal's attack on the Roman encampment during the previous day. All of these psychological factors made battle especially difficult for the infantrymen. Hannibal's deployment of his army, based on his perception of the terrain and understanding of the capabilities of his troops, proved decisive. When they get close, I run my spears onto them to avoid, if possible, their wave of throwing pylons at me, or at least sustain only one wave. If an infantry unit uses all of its ammo, it will get back to Group 1 with the units that we will be using as a shield wall. Okay, clear. Next one, please. As news of this defeat reached Rome, the Romans were in complete disarray. Their best armies in the peninsula had been destroyed, the few remnants severely demoralized, and the only remaining consul Varro completely discredited. Rome declared a national day of mourning, as there was not a single person who was not either related to or acquainted with a person who had died. A delegation was dispatched to consult the Delphic oracle in Greece. The Romans became so desperate that they resorted to human sacrifice, twice burying people alive at the Forum of Rome and abandoning an oversized baby in the Adriatic Sea, apart from public executions of defeated enemies dedicated to Mars. Within just 20 months, Rome had lost 1/5 of the entire population of male citizens over 17 years of age. The morale effect of this victory was such that most of southern Italy revoked their allegiance to Rome and pledged their loyalty to Hannibal. Philip V of Macedon pledged his support to Hannibal following the Carthaginian victory. It's also very important to bring the general in a close position to have the most of the troops within his range and activate regularly his abilities for extra morale boost. Now here we have a bigger block of enemies. We still have some projectiles to throw. We are at a very good position. No! I wanted only one. Not all of you guys. Soon the projectiles will finish and we will need to activate our cavalry too. Well, I would prefer this unit to finish its ammo, but it seems they will catch it in melee. Okay, cavalry, take positions at their rear. Let's leave the left unit to take some missiles and go to the center. No at the Triarii. Frenzied charge, please. Well, at the next charge, we should be better synchronized. Our general closer. The Carthaginian cavalry has the best shock effect at morale. Shit, careless losses. A little morale boost. Now we have finished our ammo and we will work with horses at their rear. Yeah, boys, take turns charging. One withdraws, the other comes. Nice! You, come closer to enjoy the show. Okay, regroup. These are too depleted. They can break easily. The battle is going very favorably towards us, so I have the luxury to send them behind my lines and put bigger units in the front. The Gallic troops will have bigger casualties, so I prefer sending troops with higher defense to meet them. Why did you stop? Clear their path, boys. Numidians, go and fetch us another victim, please. Surround them. These horses are exhausted. Now, make them break. Only 2 left. After the battle, Hannibal was urged by his generals to seize the opportunity and march immediately on Rome. Instead, Hannibal sent a delegation to negotiate a peace treaty with the Senate on moderate terms. Despite the multiple catastrophes Rome had suffered, the Senate refused to parley. Instead, they redoubled their efforts, declaring full mobilization of the male Roman population and raised new legions, enlisting landless peasants and even slaves. So firm were these measures that the word peace was prohibited, mourning was limited to only 30 days, and public tears were prohibited even to women. The Punic army was not in a condition to mount a direct assault on Rome. It would have been a fruitless demonstration that would have nullified the psychological effect of Cannae on the Roman allies. Even if his army were at full strength, a successful siege of Rome would have required Hannibal to subdue a considerable part of the hinterland to cut the enemy's supplies and secure his own. His strategic aim was not the destruction of his foe, but to dishearten the Romans by carnage on the battlefield and to wear them down to a moderate peace agreement by stripping them of their allies. For the remainder of the war in Italy, the Romans did not amass large forces under one command against Hannibal. To raise 2 new legions, the authorities lowered the draft age and enlisted criminals, debtors, and even slaves. They used several independent armies, still outnumbering the Punic forces in numbers of soldiers. Oh, did we scare them? Everyone, attack them! Oh shit, they tricked us! Of course they will not break and stay steady. It would be funny to lose my general at this point.
The legions break with nowhere to run. Cut them down. Rome is as good as ours.
Yeah, boys! Nice job! "992 losses for us. I think we did a good job taking the least amount of casualties. In the actual fight, of the Roman and Allied infantry, 48,200 were killed, 19,300 were captured, and only 14,000 managed to escape, including Scipio Africanus, who managed to escape the encirclement. The Carthaginian losses were around 8,000 men. Hannibal's double envelopment at Cannae is often viewed as one of the greatest battlefield maneuvers in history and is cited as the first successful use of the pincer movement within the Western world to be recorded in detail. The war in Italy still had occasional battles, but was focused on taking strong points and constant fighting according to the Fabian strategy. This finally forced Hannibal, with his shortage of manpower, to retreat to Croton, from where he was called to Africa for the final Battle of Zama, where the Roman victory ended the war. Stay tuned because we will play this battle too.